I'm Isyander.
And I'm Koda.
And today, he already knows what's coming.
I do.
You already know, thanks to Patreon, by slim margin, by the way, the Servitors beat out the Tau, who I did not think would be in first place somehow. And today we're going to be covering everything there is to know about them. It's going to be fun.
Is it?
Yeah, it's going to be fun. I got very creative in this one.
I liked the puppy breaks in the Patreon episode.
You won't be getting any in this one. But I'll use other devices to help you out.
Why?
No
more dog breaks?
You will see. For now, though, the options are the Crimson Fists, the Tau, and Commissars. Sound off in the comments. You know the drill. Top 2 get made. Last one, I have to choose my finger. Last one gets shunted off into the loser's bracket to keep fighting. It's been the Tau for so long, man.
I don't know why a very visceral image just came into my mind of you counting up the options on the poll and going, the first 3 get made, the last one gets knocked off into the loser's poll.
I like having all my digits in an appropriate amount. So, no, I'm not going to do any of that. But sound off in the comments. You already know how this works. We also have a Patreon. You get a bonus episode every single week. We did one on the different types of servitors this week. There will be another one on whoever wins next week, as well as a bunch of other stuff, and helping us keep all of these lights on.
There will be more.
And there will be more. So for those of you who are already there, thank you very much. For those of you signing up as I speak, thank you as well. Now let's get into the... There's no really... The best way to describe servitors are like the foundation of suffering that underlies everything in 40k.
Man-made horrors just barely within our comprehension.
Yeah.
And that almost makes them more disturbing.
Yeah, like in our world, the tech makes you sad. You know, like there's nothing quite like, I'm going to go to bed. Let me swipe a few times. Why do I hear birds? Mm-hmm. That is a pain. That is a pain that can, if that could be bottled, it would be used by the military.
Yeah.
It is foul. In 40k, the machine's what feels the pain. You'll get pain. Don't worry, that's gonna show up. But like the machine's the one that's gonna do all of the suffering here.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is. I'm trying to describe how. Because look, filing taxes is bad. Filing taxes is thoroughly unpleasant.
Yeah.
But in 40k, your computer would be screaming as you did it. And I suppose that's the real problem here. It is the Imperium's answer to a machine should be doing this, really, and we're scared of those. So we're gonna make a human do it technically.
Well, if I wanted somebody to scream helping me with my taxes, I would just acquire a CPA, and the CPA would go, "You spent how much on what?" No. This is the pain servitors feel is like, for those of you playing League, if you've ever like truly been frozen in a game and can't do a thing about it, and critically everyone else is doing fine, it's just you who's the problem. Yeah, that's the pain. It's so unpleasant. And a lot of it, the reason they opt for this, and it's really weird because it occasionally will border on the topic of being so grim that it's cartoonish. It's not dark anymore. It's just like so like silly and grim that it's funny.
Yeah. No, it's not even funny. It's self-defeating. You know the way the Imperium does that sometimes, where this is so, like,
how did you like go through the challenges of this universe and come out thinking this was the correct answer?
Yeah. Like the Imperium has a lot of grim that makes sense. Like sacrificing 1,000 psychers every day to keep that light bulb on. There's not a better solution. There kind of isn't.
Yeah.
You know? Except maybe letting it go out, and that's far too scary.
That's a risk nobody wants to take.
Yeah, but then there's times where the Imperium is so just bad that it wraps around, and there's no way it sustains itself. There's no way this
works. This just simply doesn't work.
Servitors at their worst can feel like that at times, but at their best, it's really well justified. Because, like, we could theoretically tunnel through a mountain. Mm-hmm. Like you could hand a bunch of people a bunch of tools and say, get through this mountain in a timely-ish manner, and it would happen. Mm-hmm. Or you could get a tunnel boring machine.
But what if we outlawed computers and the tunnel boring machine works on computers?
And that's where servitors come in, which, side note, those machines are so cool.
Tunnel boring machines?
Oh my god.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I saw one as a kid. I think it was being shipped somewhere, so it was kind of disassembled. So cool. It makes you feel puny. It makes you feel so tiny. But yes, it is the tasks that I don't want to do and you don't want to do, so we got to get somebody to do it, and that someone has to suffer about it because nobody's happy in 40K, period.
Like clearing up the fatbergs in your
That's a great
drainage.
job for a servitor.
Yeah.
Sure, that would be a job where I would like, man, yeah, that tracks. And that's kind of the jobs that they hold down.
I saw a clip from Space Marine 2 of like the ambient like background characters having a discussion, and it was an admech assigning like sewage duty to a random person, and that person going, I'm like blind, give that job to a servitor, and the admech going, you don't need eyes to scrub a tube.
I love the AdMech. I love that. That's so bad. Yeah, but that is how servitors tend to be treated. They're everywhere. They're omnipresent. You can't throw a rock at a piece of art in 40K and not see one servitor somewhere in there. Like you mentioned, computers are outlawed for good reason, because of something I tap dance around every single time it comes up, because it's relevant but not at the same time.
Yeah.
You know, it is as relevant as, say, like the Punic Wars are to us today. Where like it happened, and you know, butterflies and hurricanes, it probably affects us in some way, but drastically we have bigger problems than fish to fry. Yeah. And so that's the dark age of technology. And it's kind of the way there's a whole Horus Heresy thing.
Yeah.
And how he's the arch traitor. Everybody knows about it. It's really, really bad.
He's right behind you.
Oh God. I love that. Actually, I didn't notice Horus is a little bit. That's perfect. He's staying there forever.
Well, you should at least get him out of the box.
I will at some point. We're going to reorganize this. Note to the way everything is still in the box until it's reorganized.
Well, that one's going to get assembled.
Anyway, everybody knows about the wound he dealt, and the Imperiums were still reeling from it, and even talking about it is heresy to a point. Nobody really talks about the Dark Age of technology.
Really?
It was that traumatic.
I see.
Like, the Horus's blow is bad. The Dark Age was it almost ended everything.
I see.
Because before this, things were great. It was just the age of technology. No dark, everything's going great. We'll never need to change his name, I promise. And humanity was on top of it. They were on track to... Like, chaos wasn't a problem.
And then we invented social media.
No, they had it.
Oh.
No, like, they were so advanced, they had robots to do... They had, like... Dyson spheres were on the menu.
Oh,
yeah.
On the menu? Like being crafted, or?
Like they were that advanced.
Ah.
Now, here's the thing. We don't know how this was all possible. We don't know what enabled us to get that good at anything.
Zinchian plot.
We're not sure. Well, no, chaos wasn't a problem. This is pre-Emperor. Things are objectively great. We were on track to be the next Eldar, effectively. Just that level of running it. It was great. It was fantastic. Everyone had dogs or cats. It was wonderful. And you can tell this because every single time something from that era interacts with something from 40K, it's a stark difference. Those things from back then are willing to chew out Space Marines today. They have called the Mechanicus a bunch of witches and shamans, effectively. Like they consistently mock the modern Imperium and do a bump into machinery that is truly... It could alter the flow of every battlefield ever all at once. Like, to give a sense of scale, we found blueprints for knives from that time period. The person who found that got a planet all to himself.
Just because that was huge.
No, that knife was so much better than the knives we were currently using. It was adopted by several Space Marine chapters immediately.
It was huge.
Yeah, it was a hell of
This is a massive discovery.
A hell of a butter knife. And that's just their basic stuff from back in the day. The super duper advanced stuff that could just destroy worlds has said before that it served humanity and was happy to.
Huh. Whereas
it was proud to back in the day. They were like on the brink of transcending into something else. And then, well, the bad times happened. The Dark Age portion was added.
How did we get from why did that addendum to the age of technology get added?
Well, it was an age of technology, and you created a bunch of really, really powerful machines that could do anything possible. And then you gave them the name robot, which roughly translates to laborer.
Ah. And they heard that and went, what do you mean by that?
And as you can imagine, well, I have the power to snuff out suns. Why are you chatting to me?
What do you have 4 limbs and maybe opposable thumbs?
Yeah, cue the inevitable robot revolt. It's you've seen this before. You know exactly how it shakes out. It's Judgment Day. It's Skynet waking up. It's so bad. It is suns getting turned off and on again, off and on again, off and on again for fun. It is planets, tectonic plates just being rearranged like a jigsaw puzzle. It's
wacky.
There are planets that are melted into goo using nanobots.
Goo? Goo?
Yes. And anything that survived that time period...
Not like magma, like goo?
No. Goo.
Goo.
Like the whole population. Just...
Slimed.
Yep. There's a reason every time something from back then is found, it is either destroyed on the spot right then and there.
That was the Nickelodeon planet.
Or it is shipped off under the Cheyenne Mountain and never to be seen again. Those are the 2 options for the things found for this time period. Anything else, there's no middle ground. There's no middle ground. That's just how scary it is. We have no idea how big humanity was at the time population-wise, but we know the whole thing fell apart. And conveniently, there was a bunch of warp storms happening at the same time, too. So worlds were getting cut off left, right, and center. Some planets wound up in this really weird mishmash of feudal futurism, which I love it so much. It is the image of the medieval serf plowing a field as a titan is in the background. I love that. It's such an aesthetic.
My favorite rendition of that aesthetic has to be like the Iron Harvest.
I love Iron Harvest. That scythe kind of.
Well, they're the same universe.
Yeah, it's that same vibe.
Where you have like the very obvious Eastern Bloc Europe with just the diesel punk, I think is the term for it, mechs in the background.
That sounds correct. There's a punk for everything. Yep, that's the one. But this is different from diesel punk because it is closer to like, because this feels like the future I imagined from the 20s, you know? Whereas this is very much so the juxtaposition of true, we must pick potatoes out of this field and somehow we can service a titan. You know what I mean? Like it is that there has to be a word for it. I'm sure there is. I'm sure there has, because like I said, there's a punk for everything. Like there's steampunk, there's atom punk, which is just Fallout. I can't find the correct punk for this. Somebody will tell me. I'm sure you will, because you guys are awesome. But yes, some worlds are left like that. Some worlds are left as normal as you can be when you're aware that maybe a system over, somebody's sun is getting fiddled with.
The image of like the sun turning off on.
Yeah, it was bad.
Nosferatu.
And the reason I was
I'm surprised that didn't get more of a reaction out of you.
Oh, because it was the obvious low-hanging fruit. It was right there. Of course it was. Anyway, we don't know a lot about this time period, I'll be honest. And that's why I kind of dance around it so much, because the who, what, why, when, where, how, like we just know it was bad.
I'd imagine a lot of things were burning, including the proverbial Library of Alexandria at the time.
Yeah, and as a result of that, we do know what happened after, which is everyone came together and said computers are awful.
Never doing that again.
It also is how we have AI in 40K, because it's not artificial intelligence in 40K. It's abominable intelligence. And that's good Grimdark. I like that. I'm a fan of that. That tells you everything you need to know. You immediately know how they're viewed by the Mechanicus. And
but somehow machine intelligence is...
Well, we will get to that. The specific thing is called like the Crimson Accord of Mars. And which, come on, that's such a good name.
That is a really good name.
And effectively, it banned the creation of any advanced. Like, computing was hard. Like, the tech tree stops here.
You want to do logarithms? You got to do them by hand.
No, because actually, I might have to. No. I think you get to graphing calculators and a little bit more.
Okay.
Nothing beyond that. Critically.
Okay, so it's not like.
I think you get TI-82s, but maybe not 4s.
Well, even TI-84s are pretty like.
Yeah, that's right.
They don't do a lot.
I said TI-82s, not 4s, because.
No, I'm saying TI-84s seem like they should be acceptable.
Well, because the problem is you could do a lot with a TI-84. There are rooms in the Imperium dedicated to figuring out how we're going to get this somewhere with just calculator after calculator after calculator after calculator after calculator. And heaven forbid we bond them all together and just make this one thing.
To be fair, I don't know. I'd have to ask a NASA scientist from the 60s, could you get us back to the moon with just this device? And after the shock of, what? Finally, like, wears off, could he?
That's a very, you know what? That's almost a specific vibe. That feels like precisely where you get to stop at, like, moon landing tech.
Mm-hmm.
That is where you can stop, and then from there you can fiddle around with the parts you have available, but you cannot advance beyond that.
Okay.
So no internet, maybe an SR-71 if you're lucky. You know,
SR-71's pretty advanced.
Is it the kind of thing where it cannot fly without several computers doing all of the work?
Well, no. Actually, there are computers.
Because I know there are several planes.
There are computers in the radio systems and a lot of the radar tracking systems.
Mm-hmm.
But the controls are actually mechanical on the SR-71.
Then it flies. That totally would be fine in 40K. That is how it.
It's actually very funny. There's like a direct line from the stick in the cockpit to the like tail end of the SR-71, and it's a device called the mixer.
Okay. Sure.
Because it takes the stick inputs and it mixes them up and gets you what you want.
It gets precisely what you need.
Because it doesn't have that many control surfaces.
Yes.
It's kind of like flat.
So it has the
control surfaces.
There's a line that they all agreed to, and then there's also the general, hey, no AI. So those are the two things that we left with, which fair after the dark age of technology. You kind of want to. We figured out what happens once we cross a certain river. Mm-hmm. Let's stop at its shores. However, those lines are drawn with it's drawn with fading ink, if that makes sense. And there are some serious loopholes in that system, which is where servitors exist.
I see.
And how most of 40K gets away with most of 40K. Because, like, for example, abominable intelligence. No, we cannot do that under any single situation. But if we fire a missile that has an intelligent machine spirit that lets it know where it is at all times by knowing where it isn't, perpetually subtracting where it is from where it isn't, or from where it isn't from where it is, whichever is greater to obtain a difference or standard deviation, that's not advanced computing. That's just its machine spirit.
Please tell me you will rewatch that video to figure out the exact line.
I love
that video.
I think I'm fairly certain I got it. But yes, that is the level of hand waving they'll do sometimes.
We're leaving the territory of on the nose, and we're starting to get to up it.
Well, and then here's the thing:
we're entering the nose.
They have guided missiles, and it's just a machine spirit leading it there. But then, we have guided missiles. It's just a lot of math. It's not impossible to do with thousands of graphing calculators, right? Now, the missile was fired on a certain trajectory, and it detected a traitor and hit a 90-degree turn to go there.
How'd you identify a traitor? You're supposed to be heat-seeking.
How did we figure this out?
We didn't program you to do that.
Whole titans screaming and running by themselves? What? That's just its machine spirit. Definitely
not an AI.
No form of intelligence within there at all.
Not an AI.
And so there's the machine spirit carve out, which basically says every large machine has a spirit within it, and the older and more powerful it is, the more potent that machine spirit is, which is how they hand wave some stuff, man. We'll do a machine spirit episode. You'll see it gets so close. It gets so close.
I mean,
we cover it in the Titan episode too.
Already, I find myself asking questions of like, how is this okay?
It's fine. It's a machine spirit. And then, and so that's carve out number 2. Carve out number 1. Carve out number 2 is the artificial portion of intelligence, because 40K has computers. They have their own version of I imagine them kind of like 70s style computers, where these are rooms effectively. Well, and you've seen the Mechanicus. It does
rooms, but also you see like the monitors.
They use cathode ray monitors.
Okay, we used CRTs up until the 2000s. Let's
Did
be
we?
fair. Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh no, you're totally right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Now we added color to them, but and that was a whole process. But yeah,
but so they have computers, and they're gated.
I've only ever seen like the classic, like the black and green CRT terminals that they've used, and honestly, it's a vibe.
It looks precisely how it should, and so those are fine. Those are fair. You need some math and some computing to ship things places in a universe where fast travel involves arriving yesterday, today, during the Qing Dynasty, or 2056. Like, you just need a computer for some of this. You need something that can do some pretty advanced math. Some pretty advanced math on your behalf. Sure, you could do it with 100 people and some paper. Yeah, it's just unsustainable. There's a million worlds here. We have to give ourselves some tools.
To be fair, that is how we got to space.
Yeah, and that's kind of where the tech stops.
Okay.
You have to give yourself that room. But where servitors exist is...
No. I mean, we had rooms full of people doing calculations.
Oh, the Mechanicus has that too.
Okay.
Like that's what the administration's job is.
You do math.
Like there's... Look at any piece of art for the administratum, and it is people sitting at desks with just reams of paper just flowing all over the place.
Doing long division, I assume.
Yep. Because artificial intelligence is really, really scary. And so servitors go for the artificial portion because, hey, it can be intelligent. It's just not artificial. This is a person. This was naturally grown. It's fine.
And I know enough about servitors to say this. Just to soothe your doubts, we also took its free will away.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. They serve as just the true labor backbone of every... Well, I'd say even labor is not accurate because, like, servitors do everything. It's not a joke when I say, like, there are printers that howl in 40K. Like, it is beyond labor. It is almost everything in 40K runs on servitors. It's Windows level of ubiquitous. It's shocking how omnipresent they are. And they can do all kinds of functions. There's a couple of types. Typically, you have, the combat ones, the basic service ones. But all of them share the basic premise of this is a human who we have added machine bits to and is capable of some limited reasoning within a task. Therefore, we can look away, and it's not an AI doing it.
They have just enough intelligence to figure this problem out, but not enough to resist their position.
Yes. And so this is where the servitors come in, and this is where we got to talk about how they're made. And this is where I'm going to have to deploy some creative problem solving here, because there is...
How bad can it be?
Well, the process of making a servitor is when you take the idea of simplify and add lightness and apply it to the inside of someone's skull.
Yeah.
It's everything that's not needed is taken out.
So I assume
the effort of getting this as light as possible.
Frontal lobe is the first thing to go, just because that's the... No, actually, because they need that for the decision-making part.
And see, this is the thing about that, though. We can even debate that. With machines, it's really hard to know how smart you can make it before it's reasoning. But with people, I mean... We've kind of been doing this for a while.
Yeah.
Before Advil, we had trepanning as a headache solution. So, like, if that was the way we fixed headaches, man, oh man, did we figure out quickly, oof, don't touch that chunk, And you think about the fact that we know that now, and you move us forward to the 41st millennium. Oh, they have that.
Yeah, they figured it out.
Oh, for sure.
Well, okay, to
they
be fair,
probably have, like, lobotomy speedruns.
What?
No, go on. You were saying, like you know the way Costco's have that leaderboard of fastest packer. Like, I'll stop, but you know the Mechanicus has one.
Oh God.
Yeah. The basic premise is all the thinky bits are taken out. Every single one. You either yank them, you blend them. Yeah. It's dealer's choice. Dealer's choice on this one.
That one scene from BioShock Infinite.
Yeah. And the process is you now have a jack stand that can drool. I guess. That's because that is definitely what the Imperium needs in these trying times.
A jack stand that can drool.
Yeah, they
Harbor Freight, eat your heart out.
Servitors go through it for things that are frankly almost not worth servitoring someone over. Seriously.
If you're being serious with the whole jack stand thing, is it like that level?
Oh, the projectors are servitors. Like you know when it's time to like watch a movie in class and just a guy walks in, a remote's pressed and he just goes, ah! Yeah. That is what watching a movie in 40K entails.
Cool.
Or at minimum, it's just softly weeping in the corner. And do you see what I mean when it gets so grim? It's like, this is not functional.
How can this be functional?
You can't be using people for this.
Like, this only works for children of the 2000s and late 90s. But do you remember the cart?
Yeah, the cart. Yeah,
the TV cart. Yeah, imagine that, but a person.
That's precisely what happens when servitors exist. They go from being that menial to being pretty essential. Like, for example, somebody's got to service Titans. And I'm going to be so honest. I'm claustrophobic. So we're going to get a servitor to do this. Space
I'm claustrophobic, and so is he, but we took the parts out of him that allow him to say no.
And so that servitors will do that. Space Marine chapters, I mean, you've seen them in the game. They're
yeah. They serve as like cannon fodder in Mechanicus.
Yeah, it depends. Some use it more than others. The Mechanicus Forge Worlds, by the way, if you were to take a census, the population density would be like almost half servitors. It is a high number. It's double-digit number servitors.
That is a reliance on servitors.
So many of them.
Yeah.
So many of them. That's not normal. That's how the Mechanicus uses them.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, everywhere else,
I'd assume, are the experts on making them. So, of course, they'd have more than...
Yeah. Everywhere else, though, you will see you will see them. You can't throw a rock without hitting a servitor. Like, I mean, I'm pretty sure you go to a circus and they have juggling servitors. Like, it's just, it's very...
Hi.
Because we can. That's it.
Why?
Because they occupy the same spots robots used to in the Golden Age, but because the Imperium is now cruel and primitive, guess what their robots are?
We have clowns to juggle at the circus. Why'd you need a servitor?
Because we could.
Okay.
And the kids saw the clowns taking too many smoke breaks. So, plus that one time they were all leaving in the compact car and got in a horrific accident. That's neither here nor there. I'm just saying, 10 of them in a car, those airbags just become very lethal, very fast. What?
An image came to mind. A very silly image came to mind. A group of hitman clowns. You organize a
group of hitmen?
You organize a hit on someone, and like they pull that tactic where they pull their car out in front of yours to like stop you, and then you see like a full army.
Yeah. And that's why we outlawed clowns and moved on to servitors. They are so dehumanized, it's not even funny. They don't have names, they have numbers. Like, it's usually task and number. That is it. And I will be fair to the average citizen in the Imperium. Nobody's a fan of this. It is a jack stand that can drool. I'm not thrilled at having to do this.
I have to wipe it up.
It's just like I am trying to get this heat exchanger off, and I just feel...
Some soft weeping.
Yeah, and it's like, this is just... Can we get a machine for this?
Please. I honestly take the Harbor Freight jack stand.
Most people are it ranges from being unsettled to just like, this is a worse solution. Like that's something that's called out several times in books. People will go, this is not the best way to do this.
This is just worse.
This is just worse. Please stop. The only people who are fans of this are the Mechanicus, really. That's it. Everybody else is thoroughly unthrilled by this.
It's new frontiers in science to be furthered.
Sure, and it's made far more horrifying when you consider that while sometimes servitors are literally made to be servitored, it can just happen. Like in the Imperial Book of Laws, some of the consequences do end with servitor.
Ah.
Yeah.
Now, how willy-nilly does this punishment get thrown around?
It depends on where you are. But the moral of the story is it's not very pleasant. The best way to describe...
really?
It's like if Akira Nakai decided to go into medicine instead of... like, he'll put a reference image up if you don't know what he does. It's interesting. It's amazing that he does it by hand. But yeah, imagine if he was your doctor. That's not pleasant.
Oh, take a Sawzall to my skull.
Any medical facility I have to walk into that regularly orders sledgehammers, tarps, sawzalls, pressure washers, and medical tools from the era when sickness is demons trapped in your bones, we gotta break them to let them out. Yeah, no, I don't want to go.
Oh, and Costco-sized cartons of cigarettes.
Yeah, it's bad. It's bad, and the worst thing is, we have descriptions of how this is done.
I assume it's very similar to the strogification from Quake 4.
You know what? That's very accurate. And on a completely unrelated note, because this is definitely not very difficult to talk about while staying within the terms of service, we're going to talk about something entirely different here. And we're going to be discussing a series of unrelated events that are happening to a kumquat. Okay?
Yes?
Yes. And so there are some poor kumquats. Some are kumquats that committed kumquat crime, I suppose, and now they're being sent here. Yes. I don't like that.
I should think about the things that I say before.
You should. Some are ethically sourced clones, effectively, kind of just lab-grown GMO to be to fit this new purpose that they're going to go into, like
to make extra kumquat pie
with extra empty space inside them, effectively. So we don't have to do as much trepanning inside this kumquat.
So more like a kumquat jelly donut.
Kind of, yeah.
Okay.
Some, however, just get black vanned into the farmer's market. Like sometimes you're just walking around one day and a Del Monte van appears. And that's just how it goes as this kumquat is rolled into a room with servitors shuffling around, hosing kumquat juice and pulp off the walls. Because you can make servitors do that. That is their whole job sometimes.
Ah.
Yes, that's how menial it can be. Think about that. The infinite potential of a human life used to hose kumquat juice off of walls. Like just deep that. Like it is said in the Imperium, human life is a currency to be spent. Man, oh man,
does it show with
they
this?
Spend it. They spend it. Shop like a billionaire. Yeah, and so back to the black market kumquat cannery. Once you arrive, they will put you up on this little scanner thingy to look for any kind of issues within the fruit. And if there are any issues,
you need to make sure that they're like not wormed.
Yeah, and if there are any issues, I kid you not, a trapdoor. Like just gone.
A trapdoor just drops the kumquat, I assume, into like a pit.
We don't actually know what happens in there.
Cool.
Like it just vanishes. It just goes away.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm assuming it's going to be made into some form of canned good. That's all one can assume. And let's say hypothetically, the fruit decides to hang on by its peels as it's falling into this pit. For some reason, there are snipers trained on all of these fruit, as well as guards with like little tasers. So they will just like that just happens in the book. Like the poor fruit just gets tased until it falls down. Yeah.
This allegory is falling apart.
What do you mean? It's just are you telling me if you tase a fruit it won't fall? I could get a taser and a kumquat right now, and I'm sure it would react to being tased in a not thrilled way, at minimum.
Sure.
Anyway, if you are lucky enough to pass that, you will enter a room that kind of just splits off immediately. And then from there, you will go off to whatever kind of fruit mix you will go off to become afterwards. And it really does depend after that what happens to you. Sometimes it's just as simple as, well, we attached a spanner to this kumquat, so now it's a tool, I guess, you know? Like, I'm not joking. It can get that menial. Other times, it can get real intensive. All we know for a fact is it all sucks.
Yeah.
It's all bad. It's all unthrilling. And I think my favorite, it's terrible, but it's also the most Mechanicum thing ever when they are like opening up, like twisting off the cap on this fruit, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
They will, and like they're removing various bits here and there. They will pour sacred machine oils in there. Yeah, and like pray to the various saints. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's. You see how miserable it is, and this is your first day on the job.
Yup.
Yeah.
Yup.
Yeah. And sometimes these facilities, I think the only bit of humor that can be found in this is the fact that sometimes there's a lot of comedy to be had in where these facilities are placed.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, in one of the Kane books, there is a treatment facility for guardsmen with PTSD and a servitor factory right next to it.
Oh.
You're like, I wonder what's happening to them.
Cool.
Oh, I wonder what's happening to them. And like there is truly quite a bit of comedy to be had.
This is like Sweeney Todd level, like, oh yeah, the barber's upstairs and then we've got the meat pie restaurant downstairs.
Yeah. No, it's that level precisely. You were bang on when you said stratification. That's pretty much what most servitors go through, and I will spare you all of the details.
I've seen that cutscene.
Well, it's kind of worse in the cutscene because like they will re-sleeve kumquats if need be. So like it's yeah. Like sometimes it just the peel's not going to work very well for this, so it needs a different one. Off with your peel you go. Yeah. And so it depends very much so on what your gig is. Sometimes it's far worse. Sometimes it's far better. Actually, no, it's never good. I'm not gonna lie. It's terrible. It's not good.
You lied to me. You said there wouldn't be an animal break. I saw you scroll by that cat picture. Let me see that. I need brain bleach.
You good?
It's adorable.
All right. I knew I needed at least one in there. And so that is the wonderful, wonderful way that the Imperium deals with fruits.
It's just
none of that sidebar.
Prestige strogification. Pack-a-punch strogification.
Yeah, pretty much. And so after you go through that process, you will leave either like... There's a couple. I mean, there's so many servitors. Any menial task you could imagine, a servitor will do it. So you could leave with like scrapers built into your hands now because your job is to deal with fatbergs. And so now you are perfectly built to deal with fatbergs.
You are the fatberg guy.
Yeah, the fat burglar. Sometimes it's like cleaning the skyscraper windows, and so you will just be built with like a tow hitch put into your back so that you can just like bungee you down.
And then like windshield wipers for hands.
Yeah, they will just do that all the time. The labor ones just vary wildly, and we don't get much art of them because really it is whatever the author wants in this moment.
Mm-hmm.
If the author says, we don't wipe windows, we use servitors for that, there will be a new kind of servitor created for that. And that's just how it works. It could be projectors, it could be jack stands, it could be AC units. Which are just terrible because where's the air coming from? Where's the hose going out of? Like it's not great. It's thoroughly unpleasant. But this is the Imperium's answer to computing. They will also be occasionally repurposed into like frontline drones because if your hand is a massive torque wrench, turns out whacking something with it,
that will hurt.
It'll work in a pinch, you know. Plus, it's better than sending people out.
Yeah, because these aren't people anymore.
That's how the Mechanicus justifies it.
Yup. Sure.
Yeah. And they typically don't get much thought beyond what they need to do. So, like, the only bits left in will be like, this is how you clean a window. Mm-hmm. That's all. Mm-hmm. And the combat ones get to keep a little bit more because it goes beyond how do I, there's a little
bit of problem solving that you still need to do combat.
Yeah. And so you do need to kind of keep a close eye on that. Mm-hmm. And then, so those are kind of the paths that servitors can take. You will either see them just being the connective fiber of the Imperium at their very best, or hey, we could do something real miserable to somebody, right? Or alternatively, the combat servitor, which is how much steel can we put on a man while he can still run at a decent-ish speed. Or, we'll just put a bolter on him, and he doesn't even really need an aim subroutine. He just needs, fire forward, and, it'll be fine.
Fire not at us.
Yes, and they will servitor almost anything, by the way. Mm-hmm. They have done it to dogs, birds, orcs, out of curiosity, fish aliens, Gretchens. They'll just do it to everything.
Why?
Just because.
Sure.
Haven't done it before.
Is that the Gretchen servitor right there?
Yeah, it's a Gretchen servitor.
He looks so... His mirth is all gone.
I mean, look at just how... Dead.
It's so funny. It's like the duality of man because the Mechanicus behind him is grinning from ear to ear.
Well, that's the White Dwarf, fun fact. It's a whole thing. We're not going to get into that.
What?
It's a long story.
Okay.
Doing that to things that aren't people, though, is a sin against the omnissiah.
Really?
Yes. It's so funny.
And doing it to people wasn't.
The AdMech has some very loose moral guidelines.
Yes.
People are wrong, but hey, people are right, Gretchen are wrong.
Yes.
Yep.
Correct.
Yep. And that is how and why they exist. The worst thing that can happen to a servitor is, if it gets whacked in the head or it's in service for too long, because, it is, and this is a thing, this is a real thing that happens. The human brain is very, 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 very adaptable. All of us is very adaptable.
It's really good at its job.
And sometimes you'll see, when chunks are lost, other chunks will compensate for it in ways that work. I think I saw an image of a guy's CAT scan, and there's a shocking swath of brain that's not there. And he was operating fine. And we're not sure why, but...
God, what's his name? The guy who got
Phineas Gage.
Yeah, Phineas Gage. Mm-hmm. You knew exactly what I was thinking of.
Of course.
Who functioned fine.
And so while
he had a personality change, but he got hit in the frontal lobe. Of course, you're going to have a personality change.
Yeah. And so it's really weird because while, yes, we do know what bits you could take out for things to work, the human brain will be constantly adapting and working in the background. Mm-hmm. And so occasionally you will have servitors that figure out what's going on. And
they refigure out how to feel.
Then
suddenly you have a Pixar movie about servitors.
It ranges wildly from them saying names and trying to remember things, which
that's grim,
to something called mind lock, where they just freeze up as their memories are flooding through them and they're trying to figure out who they are again.
I assume this is just the worst anxiety attack someone has ever felt before.
I can only imagine what it's like to wake up as a servitor.
Yeah,
that's terrible. That's awful.
Just the whoa. And what happened to me?
And the moment that happens, you better believe a Mechanicus van screeches in, sorry about that, and just swaps it out with a new one. I'm talking brakes on fire. Just, here's a new one, don't worry about it, bye. And just gone. I'm not joking. We don't know anything about mind lock. We don't know how they fix it because every time it's popped up, a van has shown up. So sorry about that. Here's your new printer. Bye-bye. And they just run away with them.
Yup.
It's the most Imperium thing possible.
Mm-hmm.
It's the most Imperium thing possible. It sucks.
Oh.
Do you see what I mean about where they land? And the great Grimdark spectrum of that's so funny.
This is so funny because this is just why.
And then you get to the premise of re-sleeving a kumquat and you're
then you lose me so quickly.
But what do you think of servitors?
Oh,
and these are the ones made. This is the legal process. There are black market servitors. We covered them in the Worst Fates video.
Mm-hmm. I don't know what to think of them. Mostly negative, mostly bad.
I mean, they're not in your top 5?
I feel like I couldn't put words to how I feel about them. It's mostly screaming.
Yeah, they're doing a lot of that on the inside too.
It's mostly screaming.
Mm-hmm. I mean, like the concept of, you said like a Servitor Pixar movie. That'd be the grimmest thing. That would be the grimmest thing, because it's just inside out, and then like something comes in, half the mindscape's gone, and it's like, what was that?
No, I was thinking more that after everything was gone, like the emotions coming back to like Fallout, basically.
Pretty much. It's no, servitors are rough, but they're part of the Mechanicus. So, and they're kind of everywhere. You can't miss them.
I mean, I've seen art of just like servitor calculators that are just like torso and then robot hands and a head, and they're just like in a basement looking place somewhere, just like writing math down.
I mean, like, think about it. You just need to cut out everything save for algebra.
Yeah.
And boom, done. We now have an algebra machine. Because heaven forbid we deal with ones and zeros again.
I can count in binary.
I mean, yes, you've shown me this several times
1,
now.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16.
Nice.
17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 6, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32.
Okay, we're halfway there.
No, I'm not going to do the full thing because it's an exponential process.
Oh, is it? Do you run out of hands at a certain point?
No, you don't run out of hands. Like, you can go like 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, and then you add all of those up and it gets to 256.
That is the most used skill imaginable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But don't forget, 0 is also a digit.
Yeah, but the Imperium won't bother with
So,
me.
never mind. It's not 256. It's 255, but I'm 256 digits.
The Imperium will
0.
never bother with any of that. They barely have... Like, if you see the sheer number of candles...
No, I would get Servitor to do binary.
Oh, immediately.
Like, they'd have me, like, brainless in a basement going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Yep, that would be it. Yeah, just judging by the sheer number of candles in the Imperium, they barely have a grip on light bulbs. You want them doing binary? Seriously? No. Yep, but that does bring an end to this episode. The options are still available to you, so make sure you sound off in the comments, and we will see you next week for something, probably the title. As always, thank you for watching, and thank you for being you.